Here's my 2010 Ford Escape. We're going to be replacing the rear drive shaft. This is the replacement rear drive shaft that I picked up from a local salvage yard for $100. Since we got to raise the vehicle, we're going to go ahead and block the tires. Well, here's my rear drive shaft, and you don't even have to here I can just feel it. Here's this big old dent right there. There's the dent. Yeah, you can just see it you can just kind of eyeball it. From here, from your center bearing, you have a wire that attaches right here to the frame. So the first thing is we need to remove this. Next, go ahead and put this into neutral. Now I got to remove these front bolts, and they look like they're T45s. So when you go to remove these, sometimes it kind of helps to put like a little crowbar thing in between the U-joint to kind of hold it in place. Otherwise, the drive shaft will spin on you. So right here by the differential, we got to take off these bolts here. All right, so I'm using just a 12 mil deep socket, so I can at least reach here, and then I'm using also a 12 mil wrench just to kind of hold them in place. There's it. This last one was a tough one, so I had to wedge a pry bar against this part of the U-joint here. So at this point, this thing should just pop. This thing should just pop right off. Because here's what the new one looks like. Now the only thing is I just have to get this thing off this lip. Right here, these are U-joint cap straps. So what we're going to do is, in order to get this thing out, is we're going to remove these bolts here and here, and then you're got another two over here. Then what this will do is allow this we'll be able to separate this out, and then be able to pull this out, and pull this thing out of the car. And so what we'll do is under the car is we'll go ahead and we'll index this. So I'm going to take a Sharpie, draw a line here, and then I'm going to draw a line here. So when I go put this together, I know this line matches up with this. Because the thing is, when they balance this out, this is balanced like this. So if you turn this 90 degrees, this will be 90 degrees or 180. This may be out of balance. Because you see here, these little weights that are welded on, these are the balancing weights. You got a couple over here. You got one on this side over here. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and index mark this one here. Index mark over here. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead. See, once I loosen up these caps here, then I should be able to pull this back out towards me, and pull this thing out of the transmission. Alright, so I got one off, so I'm going to go ahead and try to rotate this so I get to the other one. So I have all the caps off. Now what I'm going to try to do is pry this off and then pull back on this to get it out. So I had some trouble trying to remove this. This was like kind of rusted in. It's kind of like an interference fit. And what I ended up doing was I just took just a big mallet thing like this, and I just started smacking this thing. I mean, I didn't have to hit it too hard, but just, you know, a little bit more than just a light tap. And then I was hitting it, and I could see as it was starting to pop out on its own. I didn't have to pull on it or anything. All I did was just hit it right here on the bottom, and this came out on its own. All right, so it's already got the caps off here. Just pull that down, and then I just pull this straight out. There you have it. What I've seen on some YouTube videos is like when they try to remove this will actually get stuck in the transfer case. And what some people kind of think that, you know, they'll just like some other drive shaft, you can just pull it straight out. Well, if you do that, this back end will come off, leaving this inside, and then a bunch of ball bearings will come falling out. The next part is we're going to have to remove the bolts on either side of this center bearing. And then after that, we should be able to just drop this thing down. Yeah, these are going to take a 21mm socket. Holy shit. Come on. Okay. Here's my 3/4 inch drive socket. There we go. I got the bolts out. Now the fun part is to let this drop, where I'm going to put this thing down, and then I'm going to pull the thing out. All right, next thing I'm going to try is I'm going to take some kind of a chisel here and try to catch this little pocket, and then try to hammer this thing out from here.
That did the trick.
Okay, so on the replacement, I'm going to go ahead and separate the two halves of this drive shaft so make it easier. So I can work on getting this half first, and then worry about getting this one in. I've already index marked it, so there's my little Sharpie mark, and here's the other one. So this one's a 8mm. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen the 4 bolts there. I think the next part is I'm going to try to hang the center bearing first, and I'm going to leave it loose, and then so I can at least be able to work the other end to the differential. Alright, so I got the nuts on loose, and now I should be able to move it back and forth and not have to worry about this thing falling. Alright, so I got all 4 bolts in, and I got them finger tight for now. So now I'm going to go and get the other half of the drive shaft and put it on the front side of the car. Well, here's what the inside supposed to look like. Alright, so what I'm going to do first, I'm going to get this end in first, and then worry about the other side. Alright, so what I end up doing is first, just kind of lightly just fitting that in there, just to kind of hold it up. Next, I'm going to go ahead and get the strap so this thing at least is secured. Also, while you're at it, so make sure you get your index marks all lined up. Alright, so I got these kind of tightened down. I haven't got the torque wrench on them yet, but got this in, so now I'm going to worry about the front half. So what I did with these bolts, they had almost like some kind of like a thread locker on the threads. There's like this almost like this thick rubber, kind of like right around the middle, like couple, maybe on 3 of the threads all the way around. So what I did is I took my bench grinder with a wire wheel and cleaned it off, and then I grabbed a small pair of screwdrivers cleaned out, you know, the rest of the threads as best I could. All right, what I did is I pull back on the joint here, and I have the bolts fed in, so I at least can see, you know, where the bolt is actually going into, because the threaded part is over here. So I kind of pull back so I can see where I'm doing, and then I can start to then screw this in by hand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the rest. I'm going to do is I'm going to try to hand tighten all 6 of them first, and then I'm going to go ahead behind them and then tighten them down with the Torex bit. I'm trying to be extra careful not to cross-thread any of these things. Okay, so far I've tightened up everything. So these are supposed to be tightened to 30 foot-pounds. The little safety strap, that's to 30 foot-pounds. All right, the bolts on either side of the center bearing is to 41 foot-pounds. And the bolts on the outside of the flange are supposed to be tightened to 52 foot-pounds. And the bolts on the end caps are supposed to be tightened to 17 foot-pounds.